In this video we're going to take a look at override methods. So what are override methods? Override methods are methods which are inherited from superclasses or parent classes, whatever you want to call it. So at this point we have our animal class, but behind the scenes our animal class is actually inheriting from the object class. And this is something that's default in many languages. Every class that you create is a subclass of the object class. And inside this object class there's a certain method toString. And I'm going to show you that on the internet. So we open up a new browser, then we say Dart object. And as you can see here, object class Dart::core library. And if you scroll below, it has this toString method, returns a string representation of this object. And our animal class is inheriting this toString method from this object class. And if we now go back to our Dart pad, then if we place an enter here, and I'm going to say animal dot, then you can see that there are certain methods that we never defined, just like this runtime type, no such method, and here the toString method. And this toString method is actually already used, and that's here. This animals class makes use of this toString method to print out this instance of animal, and we are actually able to override that. So how are we able to do this? In the browser, in this environment in which we are programming, I picked this environment because it's really easy to get started, but there are certain limits. So if I type here toString, there's actually nothing happening. If I do console space, then it has no suggestions. But if I open up this code in an environment, and I'm going to use Visual Studio Code. So let's open up this project, and I'm going to replace this here. So here we have our code that we created in the browser. If I now type here toString, then you can see that there's a certain method popping up. If I press enter now, you can see that it has an automatic keyword override, and we can actually see the implementation of this method that we are going to override. So what this method does is it returns super.toString. So it's actually saying that this super is the class where we're inheriting from, which is the object class, and we use the toString method from that object class. And that has its own definition about how that should work. But we don't want that. We want to create our own toString method that whenever it's called, it's giving something back that we want. So I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to close this environment, don't save it, and I'm going to place it here. And instead of this super toString, let's delete this comment, and we're going to give back a string, which is going to say _name, and then we are going to use our kind again, and semicolon. So this is what we had before. And it says undefined name of underscore. Oh, we didn't private it, so this way. If we now run the code again, we should see here are animals. As you can see, Harry the dog, Fred the cat, and Larry the bird. So this way we can override certain methods which we are inheriting from other objects. And this is something that we call inheritance, and we're going to look at that in a later video. But here you can see that there's a certain limitation on this browser, this environment, and that's why it's really important that if you really want to get into coding, you should download a good environment, but it takes some setting up time to do that. But it really pays off in the long term.